Like the first two phases, the third phase of the Lok Sabha elections on Tuesday, covering 93 seats across 11 states, also recorded a dip in voter turnout as compared to 2019. Now, this is what early estimates are saying. Now, the voter turnout is around 64.4%. In 2019, these constituencies, the same constituencies, recorded a turnout of 67.33%, which means it's very likely that the voter turnout in 2024 is going to be lower than 2019. Now remember, this is a phase that was particularly a strong one for the BJP, with the party managing to win at least 78 of the 93 seats in 2019. Now the voting percentages of the first two rounds of the elections have the ruling party and the opposition thinking, both for different reasons, but they've also raised questions about two aspects. Is it boiling down to whose poll day management is better? Are we reading too much into these numbers? Is this a waveless election being fought by enthusiastic parties but unenthused voters, or a national poll with a foregone conclusion? What exactly are the truths, the half-truths and the myths about voter turnout numbers? That is what we ask tonight. We'll have a panel of guests joining us, but first, let's understand more about what the third phase polling data says in this episode of Poll Science. Hello everybody. The third phase of elections has recorded a voter turnout of 64.4%. The lowest compared to the first two phases, 66.14% in the first and 66.71% in the second. Now, while Assam has recorded the highest voter turnout, Uttar Pradesh has also witnessed the lowest. The numbers in Maharashtra are not that great. Maharashtra witnessed low voter turnout numbers too at 54.04%, 09%. Now, what would be the broad key takeaways? Let's ask our data expert and political analyst, Amitabh Tiwari, in this episode of Poll Science. Thank you, Mr. Tiwari, for being here. Sir, phase 3 of the Lok Sabha election 2023 covering 11 states and 93 seats recorded a 2.9% point dip in voter turnout compared to 2019. How do you see this? Is this an indicator of how the rest of the four phases could look like?
See, the drop in voter turnout has been the lowest in this phase. However, now it seems that a 3 to 4% dropout could be expected in the future phases as well, because it seems to be now a norm. This could indicate a lack of competitive politics, in the sense that there is a lack of enthusiasm even both amongst the opposition as well as the ruling party supporters, because it seems that both the camps now feel that the election is a done deal. So what's the need for coming out and voting? And the scorching heat, of course, is adding to this problem.
Yeah, yesterday was really hot. And so how do you see the low voting, particularly in Maharashtra, specifically in the prestige seat of Baramati? I was looking at even Ratnagiri, Sindhudurg. You know, all these western belt of Maharashtra seem to have recorded, low numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's surprising because it's an industrialized state. Yeah. And the politics is very, very competitive this time, because you now have 6 parties. You have 2 parties competing for the legacy of Thackeray and Sharad Pawar. So it seems that, see, there has been a lot of flip-flop in Maharashtra. People have voted for different parties have formed governments, different parties have hopped from one party, one alliance to another, leaders have hopped from one alliance to another. So there is a sense of apathy also amongst a section of voters. As to whoever you vote for, you are not sure whether this party will remain with this alliance or not. So there is no surety even today whether a Shiv Sena, Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray or a Ajit Pawar's NCP will remain with their respective alliances or not. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, if you give a feeling or a hint of not very competitive politics, that all is well in family, like it happened in Baramati. So it also confuses the voter as to why should they be taking it at a personal level when the people who are competing are taking this battle very lightly. So it has confused the supporters from both sides and perhaps leading to a lower turnout in Maharashtra.
That's very interesting. There's a flip side even to the emotive aspect of politics. That's very interesting. Sir, I was looking at the UP numbers and they are particularly interesting. In 2009, the voter turnout was 49.09%, with the BJP clinching only 2 seats. But in 2014, of course, there was the Modi wave. There was also 11.76% surge in the voter turnout. raising it to 60.85%. This was when the BJP won 7 out of 10 seats, and the increased participation, of course, was of advantage BJP. In 2019, there was a marginal uptick of 0.41%, and the BJP managed to secure 1 additional seat. So tell me, how do you see the third phase of voter turnout, particularly in UP?
See, if you see, UP is a low turnout state. So if you compare UP, Bihar, state election turnout versus a Lok Sabha election turnout, it is in this range, 55 to 60%. The problem of migration is very big in Uttar Pradesh. Now again, if the election is not very competitive and it's sort of a done deal, or the perception is that it is a done deal, then for a migrant labor staying in, let's say, Tamil Nadu or a Maharashtra or Gujarat, coming back to UP to vote, spending 3-4 days in a train, and it's not easy to get reservations also in train nowadays, leading to a loss of income for 3-4 days. I think that's what is leading to the low turnout in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, apart from the scorching heat, of course. But it is also to be seen as to why people who participated in large numbers in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, 70% plus in the recently concluded Vidhan Sabha elections, there the turnout is in the 60s. So that's something to ponder. Gujarat also has always been, if you see the Vidhan Sabha elections, the turnout has been on a decline in both 2017 and 22, perhaps because there is no motivation on the part of the Congress voter to go out and vote, because it seems that again the BJP is likely to score a hat-trick. So all these reasons combined could lead to a lower turnout in these states.
So is there a voter fatigue or not? We'll get to know all of that and all the factors at play here. More on that later in later episodes of Poll Science. Thank you for watching. Also joining me now is author and senior journalist Shugata Srinivasaraju, political analyst Arti Jairath, and also Rohit Chandavakar, who is a senior journalist who has tracked Maharashtra for years. Thank you all of you for joining me on this show. Shugata sir, starting with you, several states in this country came up with very innovative ideas to enthuse voters. I was looking at some videos from Shimoga yesterday. There was, the majestic thrones reserved for voters. Dharwad was distributing ice cream. Poha and jalebi were being distributed in MP. But clearly MP did not vote that much, but Karnataka did. How do you see this marginal increase in Karnataka's voting? Also, do you think this has to do with the Modi factor or the Congress guarantees? And Karnataka also saw the Prajwal Revanna sex tapes controversy all through last week. Do you think that had an impact?
No, thank you, Vasudha. Yes, in Karnataka, there has been a marginal increase. See, compared to 2014 and 2019, 2024 statistics look better. Not just in the 14 seats that saw polls, yesterday, but even the earlier phase. Except for, I think 7 seats all put together, where there has been only a marginal dip. Every other seat has seen an increase. So now in the second phase, third phase, let's forget the second phase because it's been a long time now. What could be the reason that has seen this kind of bump? One has to only, conjecture. One really doesn't know. But there were a couple of polarizing issues there. One was more than the Prajwal Revanna issue, because that's a Lingayat belt. There was the Neha Hiremat murder case, which was, projected as a love jihad case, and it was emotionally kind of played out, and it was polarizing in many ways. So I would put my bet on that. That's one. And two, the Congress has put in a great deal of effort in both the Bombay Karnataka regions and the Hyderabad Karnataka regions. So it has not sort of given a walkover to the BJP this time. So that could also be the reason. And there has been some kind of a problem for the BJP, even with the Lingayat vote base, which it has sort of always sort of held close to it, close to itself, where the subsect problem had created problems. The pontiffs have been contesting against the official candidates of the BJP. For example, Prahlad Joshi faced a very stiff challenge from a Lingayat pontiff. Of course, he withdrew. But when he withdrew, Siddaramaiah said, I got him to withdraw. right? So you saw a lot of these things, and I think the least of it was the Prajwal Revana thing, because that got over in the second phase where the Okaliga belt is. I don't think that had a great deal of resonance in the third phase. And of course, the Modi factor, the reservation issue, Muslim reservation issue was blown up. And of course, the ECI has asked the BJP Karnataka to take off the video which they released, where they're saying that OBC and SC/ST reservations are being reduced to give Muslims reservation. So all this kind of messaging and polarization may have given that little bump. And also, Vasudha, we should remember that there has been an increase in the number of voters from last time. So that could have also given this marginal edge. But otherwise, it's status quo.
Right. So that is about the south of India. Aarti Chairath, when I speak to the BJP, they tell me that the opposition had minimal presence in the booth. And when I talk to the opposition, they're telling me that there is less enthusiasm to vote for the BJP this time. So is this, the case of certainty in both camps, one of winning and the other of losing? Is that driving this low voter turnout? Because, if you look at states like UP, with this whole, discussion around Ram Mandir representation, it did seem to a lot of us that there would be spirited polling at some point, But this time, what has UP seen, at least in the third phase? Turnout of 57.34% in 10 seats, and which is, of course, a drop from the 60.01% in 2019. How do you see this, particularly in the context of UP?
It's very difficult to read turnout figures, particularly, in a state like UP where, not even half the state has voted yet. And we have to see what happens as the poll moves eastwards, whether the voter turnout increases or just actually drops even further. Because, sort of as we move eastwards, we're moving into the less developed parts of UP. But I would say that, basically, this whole sort of competitiveness, which we saw in Karnataka, which I think helped to bump up the voter turnout a little bit, that competitiveness is missing in UP. Whether it is from the BJP or from the opposition, it seems to be boiling down to a constituency level fight where, local issues, candidates, caste factors, all these things are taking over. And, that expected Ram wave, it doesn't seem to be visible. Now, I'm not saying it's not there. I think people feel, Hindus in particular feel very happy that there is a mandir now at Ayodhya. But whether that is the dominant issue in these polls, that doesn't seem to be, that's not evident at least. Not from the discourse, not from the rhetoric, not from even what, the response that we're getting from voters. So it's, it's a pretty confusing picture. And the same holds true for Bihar as well. With the added problem of Nitish Kumar, who has gone back and forth so often that people, I think, are really confused about where he actually stands today. So, in both these states, which in any case register low voter turnouts, there seems to be a lack of enthusiasm on both sides, whether it's in the BJP vote camp or in the opposition camp.
So talking about another state with a very worrying voter turnout, Rohit, tell us, how would you explain a low polling in Baramati that just saw 54% turnout, lower than the two past polls? If you look at 2014 data, Baramati Lok Sabha seat registered 58% turnout. In 2019, it had 61% voting. And clearly this time with Supriya Sule versus Sunetra Pawar, that had generated a lot of heat, drawn a lot of national attention, but it just somehow became an anti-climax when you look at the polling numbers. Do you think this is also reflective of the larger problem in Maharashtra about the transfer of votes, with both Mahavikas Aghadi and the Mahayuti?
Well, Vasudha, there are 2 or 3 ways of looking at this. See, I do agree, and the numbers show clearly that there has been a downward trend, that there is lesser percentage of voting compared to last time. But we also have to look at the fact that in a state like Maharashtra, in some constituencies, voting has been very high. I agree with you that Baramati saw the lowest number, and that's become the top headline in all Maharashtra papers, English papers, Marathi papers. Everybody was surprised because people thought it was, a kind of Kate ki takkar, kind of Pawar versus Pawar thing. But it looks like new surprise sprung up, which is that people seem to be fed up of the family feud. A. B. They are fed up of these parties splitting and all of that. And C. Maybe the weather factor also worked, and that resulted in lower voting. Mainly, people getting fed up is the part. But if you move south, just 200 kilometers south, a place like Kolhapur, another constituency, Hatkarangle, Kolhapur has seen 70% voting. There is a triangular fight there because Uddhav Thackeray refused to budge down and contested the seat, which has been traditionally a Congress stronghold. So it is a BJP versus Congress versus Uddhav Thackeray Sena kind of a fight there. Farmers are very active there. It comes under sugar belt. Sugar cane was a big issue, and people came in very large numbers. There is not too much of weather pattern change from Baramati to Kolhapur, obviously. But my point is, in some places, people have come out in Maharashtra. Likewise, in Hatkarangle, percentage was above 68%. So I don't think one size fits all. Right. That is part one about Baramati and Kolhapur, the contrast. The second thing is we have to, of course, figure out how this will affect the result. And I think to some extent we have to accept that the BJP, which is a cadre-based party and which has its Panna Pramukh and Booth Pramukh and all of that, and they are very active in getting the voters out and making them vote, they might stand a little bit of advantage because they perhaps have got their people out.
Right.
If the voting percentage is low,
right,
they have the advantage because they have got their people out, and the other side maybe has not got. Last point is, this means the winning margin in Maharashtra in most of the constituencies is going to be very low. It's going to be a tight fight.
Right.
So low voting percentage means tight fights and perhaps an advantage for a cadre-based party like BJP. Vasudha.
That's very interesting. Shugata sir, very quickly before I go to Aarti, do you see this whole worry about low voter turnout reflecting in the campaigns of the both Congress and the BJP and opposition parties? Do you see the parties being far more reflective of this trend? Do you see that happening in the campaign now?
Yeah, it certainly happened. The first phase and the second phase and to the third phase. The Prime Minister himself has changed his rhetoric, has altered his rhetoric. In fact, you see greater polarization as we got closer to the second phase. And in the third phase, going forward into the third phase, it was a complete kind of swamped with communal messages. So I think that is basically appealing to the core voters to come out and, get interested in the polls because and if you remember, the Prime Minister also wrote to all the candidates and presidents of parties saying that this is no ordinary election. So that I think was an exercise in trying to increase the vote percentage.
Right. Last word from you, Aarti. I'm really sorry, I'm running short of time. Last word from you, Aarti. Do you think there is an absence of a nationwide wave? Because, ma'am, as a political reporter, often we don't really see a wave till the results emerge, right? So, do you think that there could be a wave which we are not really spotting?
So, if you look at the experience of past elections, particularly the last round of assembly elections, where the BJP won Madhya Pradesh with a stunning majority, and even Chhattisgarh with a very good majority. I didn't see anybody predict this.
Yes.
There were some people who said, yes, the BJP has an edge. Certainly Chhattisgarh, nobody seemed to have predicted. And yet the BJP came back with these absolutely stunning numbers in both these states. So, yes, sometimes we fail to see what is right under our nose.
Right.
Simply because people, when you go, they grumble about price rise and unemployment and so on. And so you somehow sort of fail to spot that wave.
Right.
And that may well happen this time as well.
Yes. Thank you all of you for joining me on this show. Several theories on both causes and consequences of this low voter turnout are being discussed, but nobody really knows the actual and absolute truth in there. And the EC, of course, has said that the voter turnout with the gender-wise breakup would be published by the 11th of May, which will probably help us understand this better. We'll keep tracking that for you, but for now, time for a short break.